Hi, everybody. It's Barry from You've Got Leads. We will be getting started here in just a couple of minutes. So we'll give other people just a little bit more time to join us. And then we will start right on time at 1 o'clock Eastern or 10 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for joining. Okay, just before we get started and clicking on things and jumping into the site and going over the training, if someone would be so kind as to send me a question or a chat letting me know you're able to see the screen and also hear me as well. So you should be able to see a login screen and login fields here, and also be able to hear me. So that's always helpful if I get that confirmation from somebody that's on the call. That way I'm sure that our technology is working and functioning as it should. So, excellent. Well, it's just about that time. I can see that the attendees have arrived for the most part. Welcome to the You've Got Leads 3.0 training. Today is Wednesday. I believe it's June 27th already, which is kind of crazy. We're almost at the end of June. But yeah, this will be helpful, I hope, to all of you who are interested in learning about You've Got Leads and about how to use the most up-to-date platform. And I do recognize some names in our attendees list, and so welcome. If you have questions, please submit the questions through the question feature, and I will get to those as we move along. I'll try to answer every one of them. Also, this program, GoToWebinar, will send to me a report that has all of the questions that were asked in it. So if there's one that needs a bit more one-to-one attention or is a bit more involved, then I'll be happy to review that report and get back to you and fully answer your question. Okay? Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. I know your time is valuable. We've got to keep this to a little over an hour and let you get back to other scheduled appointments. So I'm going to move this GoToWebinar control panel and move it over there. And again, I haven't received any confirmation from anybody that you can see the screen and hear me. So if someone wants to send me that, that'd be great. Okay, move that out of the way. Okay, so You've Got Leads 3.0. Where do you log in? That's a popular question. Well, it's this URL right here. And forgive me, somebody has their hand raised, so bear with me. Rashida, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you see the screen as well?
I can see it.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you so much for that confirmation. So now I can feel comfortable that all the other attendees can hear and see the screen as well. Thanks. And if everybody or if anybody else is wondering, you are all automatically on mute. That's just the way it does it, and it avoids experiencing any background noises or anything like that. So if you were trying to call out my name or something, that just I won't be able to hear you. So that means that everybody's automatically on mute. So just use the question feature to chat with me or send me any kind of question. Okay. Okay, so back to the site. We are at https://crm.you'vegotleads.com. So make sure this is where you're going when you're logging in, and bookmark or save that to your favorites. So if you use Internet Explorer, you're probably familiar with favoriting sites. And if you're a Chrome user, then you simply click the star, and then you can label or name the bookmark site whatever you want. I just labeled mine YGL 3.0 and click done. That way I can easily get back to it. You know, when I come to work in the morning, I can just click my YGL 3.0. I know it's at the right URL. You also know and recognize that you're at the right place by seeing just login fields in the middle of the screen. If it looks different than this, then you're not at the right place. Okay, so just login fields and you have white space around it. If you happen to forget your password, it's very simple to reset the password. And all you do is click Forgot Password, put in your email, and then you would click Send Instructions. Okay. Now you can't just put in any email. You have to put in the email that is associated with your You've Got Leads account, right? And that's what prompts the auto-generated email message to be sent over to your email. It'll be in your inbox. Then you click the link and reset your password. Of course, if you need any help with that, I will show you how to reach out to You've Got Leads customer care and support, and that will be in the follow-up email as well to everybody who attended this session. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get logged in. And here we are at our YGL 3.0 dashboard, or the home screen. And what we'll talk about and go over are each one of these main sections in today's session. And I will walk through the steps of adding a lead. I will assign a source to that lead. I'll track a task. I'll enter notes. And we will also look at some reports that are driven by the data that you've entered into the program. Okay. But first, I want to discuss more about the dashboard and just the items you see immediately upon logging in. Okay. So I've helped a couple of users even this week, brand new users of the YGL program, so welcome, and also users that have been using You've Got Leads for a while and have been with us even through a couple of upgrades. And what I've noticed is the knowledge of the customization of your dashboard cards and what can be shown at the top and even deactivated or hidden, that's important. And so we'll go over that too. I want to make sure everybody knows how to do that. But before we go into any real detail, I want to show you what's at the top of your screen in the purple header here. And you should see the name of your community. If you're a user that has access to multiple communities, then certainly you'd have that drop down and you can toggle back and forth between those communities here. Okay, so you have that instant access to drop down all the communities you have access to. The other thing our users are really enjoying is the lead search field at the top. So for the first time when you type a name in, it'll actually find results and return results based upon the name or the text that you're typing, right? So if I think there's somebody with the last name Brown in this program that I need to find, I need to review their lead details. How could I quickly do that after logging in? Well, I would use the lead search bar here, type in the name, and it's going to return the results. And I would say, okay, I know it was Mac. That's who I need to follow up with. I could click right on the name. It takes me to the lead details. I could pop over to activity and see what we've performed with this lead thus far. Okay, so just to give you a little idea of how you'd use that to quickly find a record or information within the program. Now you can search last name, phone, zip, email, and even hot buttons in this search field. Okay, so a little more robust than the old version, and it also returns results as you type in the text. Okay, so what am I showing here at the top of my items? Well, I have upcoming appointments at the very top, and that's just because in my own version of the CRM, I like to make sure that I'm on top of appointments that I've scheduled at a specific time and duration. So something that's a bit more significant than a simple email or mail or even phone call, right? If you haven't promised to make the call at a certain time. These are things like assessments or tours, right? Or in my case, maybe a demo of YGL or a training. I've promised to be somewhere or be doing something and available at a specific time and duration. And I think it's beneficial to be able to schedule those types of tasks. That's your upcoming appointments. Now, if I want to drop down the details, I can do that by clicking the plus sign or just clicking right on this link. You don't have to pinpoint the little box. You can just click here And when we launch the mobile app, which is coming in a couple of months, we have that slated for the end of August, beginning of September. These types of sections will be nice because you log into the app and you have your appointments right there front and center, and you can simply click with your finger on the phone and it'll call the person, or click the email and open up the email, the new email. And so just helps with the efficiency and time of following up and that critical information right there, right, while you're on the go. So that was one of the main reasons we implemented an item like this. Now, if you need to edit the entire appointment, then you click the little pencil at the end of the row, and that brings me to my edit window. Okay, and you can see that the all day box is unchecked. That's what categorizes this task as an appointment. By default, any task you schedule when you've got leads will have this box checked. That's the default, is to check it. So if you want to make a task an appointment and have it show up in your upcoming appointments and you're wondering, well, how do I do that? Well, you would simply uncheck this box in any one of your tasks. Okay. So if I check it, it grays out the time and the duration. If I uncheck it, now I can adjust this. So maybe I'm going to reschedule to 5 o'clock, click set. I'm going to change my duration to an hour and a half and click save. Okay, so I just changed that right here. Now appointments will always show today, tomorrow, and the next day. So tomorrow it would say today, tomorrow, and Saturday. Okay. Now, again, we are able to put these dashboard items and cards in any order. Okay, so if you're brand new, you might just play around with it, figure out what you like. You know, you've never used You've Got Leads before. I say, you know, I want my latest leads at the top. That's important to me. I want to know who's inquiring. I want to know who is being auto-populated into the system, perhaps. If you work with A Place for Mom or Caring.com or auto-populate your own website leads, maybe latest leads is the most important item to you. Okay, so you really just click the little customized dashboard icon, and then I can move any one of these dashboard items to the top or anywhere in the list in any order. So I just click latest leads, I click the double arrow up, and that pops it to the top. Then I click OK, and my latest leads are here now. And I can show more than 5. I can show the last 10 that came into the system. I can show 20. Right? And this is a big thing. This is what users in our focus groups and asking and just getting support tickets. This is what people asked us about. They said, can you make it easier for me just to see all leads that have come in to our account upon logging in? And we thought, yeah, that's pretty relevant. I mean, the system's called You've Got Leads, right? That's what it's all about, is following up with the families, making sure they're supported. You are calling them right away, right? And hopefully moving them to that tour phase. And so there's not much else that's more important than the leads that you have in the system, right? I can move upcoming appointments around. I can move task snapshot around, right? I can show more than 5. So on your dashboard, it's not going to give you all of the information, right? The dashboard is not the place where you search for a completed task that you did 3 years ago. These are more relevant tasks to do right now. And that's why they're on the dashboard, and that's why you get to show 20, right? Now, all of your appointments, if you scheduled a task at a specific time and duration, it will show up in your task snapshot. Okay. So all appointments are also tasks, right? Is what I'm trying to say here. And if you see the time specifically, you know that's in an appointment, and that will also show up in your upcoming appointment. Okay. Something else that users ask us about is, can we offer the ability to complete something from our dashboard? So if I did want to complete this call with Christina Seifert, then I would simply click the radio button, brings up my details. Okay, looks good. It will default done yes, because it thinks I want to complete it. Everything looks good. Maybe track some notes here. And then save it. And we'll see what happens. Now it's going to move that off my screen. And the really nice thing is it'll even prompt you to enter that next step for this open lead, right? So I just accomplished, and I can accomplish everything I need to with this lead, perhaps right from my dashboard. Maybe I spoke with her. Maybe she said, yep, we want a tour. And we're going to schedule that for right after the holiday. So let's say Monday. Okay, so that's just a little details blurb about what the task or appointment is about. I've set my due date. Now, I bet if you could all speak to me and I gave you a pop quiz, you could tell me how to make this an appointment, right? That's what I thought. You just uncheck this box. See that? Now I actually can choose a specific time because I unchecked my all day type task box. If you want to ignore this and never touch it, that's okay. That's your preference. And anyways, some users like to distinguish their appointments. You know, other folks just like to have their tasks listed. Either one is fine. There's really not a wrong answer. But if you want to make it an appointment, you uncheck, choose your time. They said we'll come in a little after 2 o'clock on the 9th. Now, you can't just click off there. You need to click set if you're making it an appointment and choosing the time, and that will set the time. The duration will always default to 15 minutes if you don't change it. Okay. Maybe I'll put this as a high priority task. It's a tour. It's going to be done no because we haven't completed it yet. This is our task. This is our next step for the future, right? It's good to do that because this lead is still open. You don't want a bunch of open leads in your You've Got Leads account with no next step scheduled. So now I'll click save. And that will schedule that tour task for the 9th of July. And I could move on to the next task. So if I want to just click the radio button, it brings up my window here, track my details, and I'm going through this exercise just to show you it a couple of times. That way it kind of, sticks in our heads. Now this is already an appointment, okay? Because you can see there's no check mark there. So I can leave that alone. Click save, that'll save it. If it's an open lead, it will bring up the next step and require me to enter that next step. So you can see you can actually get things done from this task snapshot in your home screen, right? Because it has all the history. It has my notes there. I could be calling. Even if I'm using an app eventually, I can call somebody and update the snapshot right there from my phone without ever having clicked off of the home screen. Okay, so hopefully everybody's with me so far. Projected occupancy, this is simply based upon the inventory and units you've created in the program and the residents you've moved in by completing a move-in task on their activities page. So that's how you move somebody in, and I will go through that in this training session. Also, I will be recording this session too. That way we can allow users like yourself to revisit if you want to. Okay, so if you miss something or someone pops into your office unannounced, which happens, and you have to leave this training, don't despair because I'll be posting it and you can revisit and go through the whole thing or what you've missed. Okay. So the projected occupancy, it'll show you a current picture, and based upon the pending move-ins and move-outs that you have coming up over the next 3-month period or 6 months, it will show you and predict or project, I should say, an occupancy in that time frame. A little bit of key metrics here. Maybe I want to see tours. How are we doing this year from a corporate standpoint, or even a community at the Vista Ridge of Seattle? Okay, it looks like we're doing pretty well. Regarding tours, we are way up in comparison to the last 2 years before 2018, right? So this is just a little nice graph that helps you spot trends, seasonality, year-over-year performance, and so on. Okay. The one forward-looking report is your move-ins or move-outs. Okay. So move-in total is 4, move-out total is 1. So that's good. Net total is 3, and that's always over the next 30 days, which is a nice quick snapshot, kind of at a glance metric that you may want to look at a time or two, right? You might say, I don't know. I mean, if we have a net number of 7, that means we're going to have a lot of move-outs over the next 30 days, right? So we want that to be positive, if we have vacancies. Source performance. It's a great little item. I mean, quickly I can see who are my top performing sources this year, right? So, I mean, all of this is fake demo data, but if this were real life, XYZ Home Care, Jim Govert, he's given us 7 leads and 2 have converted. Awesome. A couple of other items, sales pipeline. This kind of harkens back to the 2.0 platform. It looks a little bit different, but it works exactly the same. This is when users log in, they may want to instantly see all leads that are in the post-tour sales phase or in some other sales phase. Maybe I want to work leads that I've not made contact with yet. I've tried to, and I've made attempts, but no contact has been made. How could I quickly find that? Well, with 3.0, you log in, click no contact made, and that takes me to my leads page, having filtered by no contact made. Right? So how cool is that? I can see when the next task is scheduled, right? Or past due. And now I can start to update lead profiles, go into their task or activities page by clicking on the sales phase, and continue to work, right? So you can use these dashboard cards and these items to your advantage. And it gives you the ability to capture those that piece of information or that list of leads quite quickly. Now the top leads section here, that's simply leads that you have categorized as a top lead. Certainly there are lead status options in YGL, and we're pretty much all familiar with those if we've been using the program. If you haven't, lead status is similar to the lead temperature, like A, B, or C, or hot, warm, or cold. But users have let us know that we customize lead statuses in different ways. And perhaps we want to be able to track a table with our top leads, meaning the hottest of the hot. And that's what this is right here. So if I click on the name, if you want to know how to categorize a lead as a top lead, you simply check the star to the left of their name. If I uncheck it, that'll save it as not a top lead, and that will remove Mary from the list. It should, yeah, she's gone. Okay. So that's a little tutorial on the dashboard. I think it helps to know that right off the bat, you can customize this a little bit for what's important to you. And in helping users, they really thought that was useful and told me that, yep, it's good to know that, because a lot of times I won't even pay attention to some of these cards and I'll just toggle them off. Maybe I don't even use top leads, so I can just click this toggle. Now it won't show up. I mean, I might only use 3 of these consistently. Maybe it's just my latest leads, appointments that I have, and task snapshot. So now I just have these 3 items here on my dashboard. And if you are using a mobile device, that might be the best thing for you, right? You know, you can always go back to your little widget here and toggle these on if you need to, right? And review them. Okay, so without getting too far, down the path and into this training, I like to get started with adding a lead. So for those of you who are brand new, this is really good information. Obviously, we all need to know how to be able to add a lead to the program, assign a source, even create a source from scratch, track a task, enter notes, and so on. So let's go ahead and click Add Lead, and that's what you do if you are ever adding a lead manually. Okay, so I'm clicking Add Lead. In 3.0, it will bring up a Create New Lead screen that looks just like this. And it will have these sections specifically, and it's basically a guide to help you begin tracking the important information about the lead and then create it. So we're looking at inquiry details. And yes, you can backdate this if you wanted to change the inquiry date to whenever, or maybe Monday is when they called in. So they phoned into your corporate office. So that's the inquiry method. That's not the comprehensive source. That's just the method they chose to reach out to you. You would track your lead status. That's driven by you, right? We really don't dictate that. Even what you see in your drop-down choices under lead status is set to your organization's preferences. So some of you might see hot, warm, and cold in your account. Some of you might see even more options than 3. But if you've talked to the lead or the family and you know they're very interested, they're interested in moving very quickly, they're a really good fit and a qualified lead geographically, financially, clinically for your community, then that's probably an A lead or a hot lead. Assign to. This is who owns the lead, right? It will default to assigning it to the user that you're logged in under. Now we come to the important lead sources section. In my demo account, I do have lead sources is required, turned on. So that means I wouldn't be able to browse away from this page without assigning a lead source. Something that's nice about the 3.0 platform is if you start to type a source name that you know is already in the program, it will find the source in your list. So there's no even going to other windows, searching, anything like that. You just start typing in the source and it'll find it in the results. If it's a source that you know is not in You've Got Leads, as in your own personal You've Got Leads account, then you would need to create the source from scratch. A popular question is, can I do that from this screen without backing out, interrupting my creating a new lead, right? And having to go over to sources or something like that? And the answer is yes, you can create the source from scratch right from here. So we're going to walk through those steps right now. I'm going to click on plus at the end of the source field. That brings up my source management window. Looks just like this. For those of you who have used 2.0, it should look very familiar to you. These categories are built into the program. You don't have to worry about adding the categories. Some of the categories you simply add to lead. If they pointed the car in the driveway and just walked through the door, then you just click Add Drive-By to the lead, right? So maybe it's more detailed than that. Maybe this lead came from a professional source, so I would click 19 subsources beside professional, and there's a lot of them. There are default professional subcategories that are built into YGL, so you don't have to worry about adding any of these. There are also customized professional subcategories, and that's dictated by your organization. For an example, maybe you want to see financial planners as a professional subsource category. We can add that. It's no additional charge. You simply request that through support. It might be something like attorneys, and then under attorneys, you'd have your list of specific attorneys. Basically, whatever appropriate professional subsource you can think of can be added to this list. Okay, getting back to creating the source from scratch to assign to this lead. So I will click on any one of these randomly. I'm going to click independent living, 12 subsources. And I can look through my independent living list. Okay. And now I would want to click add new source. So I'm adding a new source, and it gives me my source details window. And I would begin to complete these fields. Now, something that is a little bit ambiguous to me, and maybe needs to be shown to you at least once, and that is the ability to enter a new org name. So you can see the little X if you hover your cursor, or I can simply click here and start typing. Now it's going to give me a list of independent livings that I've added previously, but none of them fit the bill. All of these are not where this lead came from. So I need to add a new org name. How do I do that? I would type in the name. You can just really start typing right in this org field. Okay. So let me make up just an independent living name. What have I not entered in here yet? How about McCandless Crossing? That's an independent living locally. So now we've tracked the name of our new source. And now we want to track the person that we're communicating with there, our primary contact at the McCandless Crossing Independent Living. Okay. Let's see. Just making up names. He's the executive director. And I would, for the most part, be checking this box. Use the following address as a default for company or organization. I had a user ask me, well, why would you ever not check the box? I guess if they had 2 corporate offices or this organization had multiple offices, then you might not check that box. But for the most part, if it's one company, one place, one address, you can still add multiple people to one company, but you'd be using the same address for them. And then we would enter the address information, any kind of work phone we have, right? And I won't bore you by entering all the address stuff. That's pretty straightforward. I think we all know how that works. And then we would save this in the system. Okay. And it's creating this source from scratch, adding it, making sure it's tracking. It had to create a source detail and activities page for this professional source. So it just did all of that, right? With that effort. And now I can see, I see that I have the correct source added to my You've Got Leads, and I can add it to the lead. And there it is. Okay. So hopefully everybody was following along and was able to understand what I did just there. I think it's important to know how to do that. That way you can keep pushing forward. It's a linear logical workflow. While you're adding the lead, if you need to, you can create the source and add or assign it to the lead. Now this other information here, pretty straightforward. This is all information about the primary contact. So I'm going to try to think of a name here. I would track the relation. Now, if it's self, that means that you're speaking with the person who is thinking about or considering a move and moving in. So you would choose self there. But if it's another relation, just go through the list. For the most part, I think we've captured almost every relation you can think of. But if you don't see something in the list that's very common to you, we can actually customize the relation dropdown. So, okay. And I'll go ahead and add some of this information just to be as comprehensive as possible. It prefers to be called at home, and let's go ahead and put dad in here. Okay. Now we can see there's no red on our screen. We could create the lead simply by clicking the Create button here. If I needed to, I could track some notes right away. Spoke with Sam. Let's see. And now we will create the lead. And we'll see what happens when we create. So it's creating the lead in the system. Brings us to the lead details page. So every lead in YGL has a lead details page that you can get to by clicking on their name, and an activities section as well. And here's the full details and profile. Of course, it's going to track what we've already entered when we created the lead, and we can continue to update information as it comes to us. Okay, there's our source that we've tracked. You can click on the name of the source, and you can see that it has begun to track this type of information and these metrics, like how many referrals has this source provided to us. How many move-ins per lead, date of last sales call. So all of this stuff is great information, especially for marketers and salespeople. Now it's just one referral thus far, and we know that from our McCandless Crossing Independent Living when we added this lead. So we know this lead, Sam, is the only lead that they've referred, right? And I got that window, guys, just by clicking on the name here. See that? Okay. Primary contact information. Of course, we would be as comprehensive as we can be and track the address. Same thing with resident. If we know the address, we'll track that. Personal details. I'm going to go fairly quickly through this just because I know you guys understand it. You do have the ability to click the header. So if you need to really zoom out and go back a bunch of years, you don't have to toggle. Just keep clicking here, and that zooms out. Okay. A lot of this information is simple drop downs or radio buttons, basically, or little check boxes. So no memory loss, maybe uses a cane, medication part-time, wants full meal service, maybe some shaving hair, you have a barber shop or access to one, full laundry service. Anywhere you see a save button, like in the entire screen, it'll save everything on the page. It doesn't just save this section. So if I click save, it's going to save everything. Okay. Living preferences, apartment types, amenities. Hot buttons. You can actually search any words in hot buttons and bring up those leads in 3.0. Financial information. And we save it. So we've saved all of our information. Now you do have the ability to enter secondary contacts. Okay, and you can search secondary contacts as well. And I'm going to go ahead and add a secondary contact. That way, if we search that later, we'll prove that we can find it. Okay, so are we done with this lead? Well, not quite yet. If I try to browse away, it's going to stop me. Okay, it says, please add a follow-up task. So we will do that. And I'm going to add an activity. And I just do that simply by clicking on activity here. So if you're brand new to this program, just remember that lead details, and if you're on source details, there's always a header underneath the main purple section. And it will say lead details or source details right here. Right to the right of it is all your activity and all tasks that you've completed or entered. And the way you enter a new task is simply by clicking new task, and you have your drop down here. So perhaps this is a phone call. And we made that phone call a couple of days ago. And I'm going to leave that as an all-day task. So I'm going to leave that box checked. I don't need to make it an appointment. And I'm going to complete this. And I'll track whether I made contact or not here. If it's a call task, it'll automatically give you the option to track your made contact. Yes means you made contact. No means you did not make contact, as in the number was bad, or you couldn't reach them, it just rang, or something like that. Or you left a message. MSG means message. Okay. And now we'll click Save. And that will track this completed call task, and the little phone signifies that you did make contact. Okay. If I left a message, it would be a little answering machine looking type icon. I guess that's what that is. Okay, but I'm going to say we did make contact here. And what happened was we spoke with Sam, and they want to come in for a tour. Now you can see that the task is completed. It's still giving me the stop sign because the lead is still open. It wants me to create that next step. Okay, so we're going to create our tour task. Okay. These are just details, as in the little blurb about what the task is all about. Okay. And now this is a tour task. So for me, that's more significant, meaning I've promised to be somewhere at a specific time. So I'm gonna categorize this as an appointment in my YGL. I want this to be front and center and called out as an upcoming appointment. I don't want it to get lost with all my other task activities that are just emails or calls that I hope to get to. So I'm going to uncheck that box, right? And let's say they said, you know what, we're going to come in at 10 a.m. and we are going to be here tomorrow. Oops, I broke my own rule. I didn't click set. So if you want to set button right there, and that sets your time. Okay. The duration too, it'll default to 15 minutes, but maybe I want to lengthen that. And it's a high priority task. It's not done yet, and I'll save it. Now that's going to get rid of our stop sign, and we're allowed to browse away and go do something else. Okay. So in a sense, we're kind of done with this lead as long as we've tracked our tasks, our to-dos, and then any notes. Now notes, these are significant here in a couple of ways. It helps, of course, with information and all the details, but there's a couple of features related to notes that I want to show you. So let's see. Source and okay. So let's say you entered a primary note, so the first one or the note that had the most detail by far, like paragraphs or a whole email or something. Okay. And you want to categorize it as a primary note. Let's see if I have that tag right there. So I'm going to add a tag. And if you need to add any other tags, you just start typing. You literally start typing here, and then you get the plus sign. Okay. But I found I've already added this tag at one point for another lead, so it'll be there for me. And I can just choose it, okay, or not choose it. And I can associate the task with the note with a task as well. Now I'm going to add the note. It's going to save everything. And let me show you why this is significant right here. Let's say you've been following up with this lead for a year or two or more, and you have pages of notes. And one of the first notes was your primary note with a bunch of information that you want to recall. Well, how would I quickly do that and not have to load more and scroll on down and look through a bunch of notes? Well, if I would have tagged it, and I can just go here, click the primary note, and it'll put it right to the top by itself. Okay. So it's good to familiarize yourself with how to use those tags in associating a note with a task to your advantage. Plus, you might have 30 tasks eventually for a lead, or 50 tasks, and you associated one note with a task. How do I quickly recall that note? Well, I could do this because I associated this note with that tour task on June 28th. Okay. All right. If anybody has any questions at all, just let me know. You can use the question feature in the GoToWebinar panel. It looks like everybody's sticking around, so that's a good sign. And thank you very much for being so attentive and following along. I really appreciate that. Okay, so now we are done with this lead for now. We've added everything, we've tracked the notes, we've entered our next step. Okay, so now we can move on to something else. So what I'm going to do is click leads. And we have filters set here. As you recall, I clicked the sales phase, so I'm going to go ahead and get that out of there. Now I'm looking at 658 total records. I like that. It tells me how many records I've returned in the results right up front and up top. The old program, you had to scroll down and look at the bottom, but at any rate, these are all the leads that I have, whether they're closed or moved in or not. So let's go ahead and click our filters on the left-hand side. Here's where your filters are for leads and tasks. That's a little bit different. And some folks might say, oh, well, why? I used to just use the filter form at the top. Yeah, that was nice, but it's basically an outdated way of doing things within software and CRM programs. And the main reason is it limits your options greatly. This expands your options to be able to add new filters, custom filters, such as something like an occupation. Right now, we're working on adding a custom field for one of our groups, our customers that wants hobbies. So they just want a list of hobbies that people might be into. Whatever you can think of, we can add as a custom field to 3.0. And it can be searchable, so you can see. This is just an example. Maybe I want to see all of the leads I have that were former nurses, right? There they are. There could be a reason I want to see that, right? If I uncheck that, it's going to bring back everything. So you can see how these filters work. You have main sections. You have the drop down that you can expand the section, and then you have subsections within these main sections. So now I can see all my sales phases. If I want to filter, then I simply check the box. It's really as simple as that. Now the program will default to your open leads, and that's due by the user base. Probably you would like this too, that it defaults to all open, because for the most part, the sales and marketing staff are moving leads through the sales pipeline. They're working their open leads. I mean, sure, they may go back and revisit closed leads if they have the time, or follow up with people that have already moved in. But for the most part, on a day-to-day basis, you are working with families that are in an open status. Okay, so it will default to move-in status open. Now, there may be ways that you filter leads every day and you work within a narrowed search. And so that's nice in 3.0 because you can save filter sets. And I've saved a few filter sets like my closed leads. Maybe I want to look at all closed leads. And I said my closed leads, so it's this username, and these are all closed. See that? So really, any filtered list that you can think of, you can save and name your own filter set. That way you can recall that list at a later date, anytime in one click, right? So if I clear all, I'll give you one other example. I think this is important. Plus, if you remember, I mentioned that we are recording this call, and so you can revisit if you forget how to do this. But let's say we are successful at logging in. So we can pat ourselves in the back there, click leads. Now your lead list is cleared right now. But let's say you wanted to search leads that are move-in status open, sales phase, let's see, post-tour, right? And hot leads. So I can see that I've applied 3 filters. Move-in status, sales phase, post-tour, lead status, a lead. And I'm working through this list. So I'm drilling into each one of these leads, profiles, details, and activities pages, coming back and working the next one. I know I'm not going to get through them all today. I want to quickly recall this list tomorrow. So I would name this filter set and save it. Open, post-tour, hot. Save. Filter saved, okay. Right? Now if I clear that, I log in the next day, go to my leads, and I think to myself, I want to follow up with all of those leads that I was working yesterday. How do I quickly do that? Oh, that's right, I saved a filter set. There it is. Boom. So with a couple of clicks, I can recall anybody in this list. Now, of course, if I would have moved a lead beyond that sales phase yesterday or whenever, then it would automatically not show up. So if we move somebody in, then it's not going to be in this list, right? Okay. So that's saving filter sets in leads. It works the same way in tasks. Okay, and we'll take a look at that when we get to tasks. Some other nice things about 3.0 is you do have the ability to customize your column headers a bit. So if I wanted to move contact name to the first column, I just click my little vertical dots, choose the arrow, click OK, and there it is. Maybe I want to have lead status first, and then inquiry date. And I can do that. And I like the way these filters work as far as inquiry details. You can see there's lots of information about inquiry details. And then I can even quickly pull a report, right? For instance, let's see, primary source advertising. And I'm not sure if I'll pull something here. Well, let's get rid of all those. That's probably why. I got rid of all my filters, just clear all. Now I can look at all leads that came from an advertising source or drive-by source. So you have a lot of options in your inquiry details. And I can always simply click the X for my applied filters or click clear all to reset and kind of recenter. If I were looking for one lead in particular, then here is where you type your first, last name, or any name. Okay. So all I did was I typed the name, hit enter. I can click search as well, and it will find our lead. Here's the lead that we added in this training. And I can see that it has a next task, little indicator there, right? So I can see my next step with this lead. If I click on it, it takes me right to the activities page. There's the lead details. So you can see how this program is connected. If I want to go back to leads, simply click leads. It does maintain the persistence with your last filtered search results. Okay, let's go to tasks. The tasks section in YGL is set up the same way as leads in that you have filters on your left that drive your results to the right. Okay, you can save filter sets. I've saved this A lead, high priority, incomplete tasks filter. So here are all tasks that are associated with hot leads that are high priority tasks. So that's important, right? This is basically the highest priority tasks that I've got. And 3.0 is nice because you actually can begin to complete these from here too. So click the radio button. You can see all the notes that I've ever entered. Click save. If it's an open lead, it'll prompt me for my next step. I just scheduled a next step very quickly there. And then I could go to my next one. So you can get a lot accomplished quickly or in a short amount of time within this program. Something else I'll show you here on tasks is if you want to update multiple tasks at once, for instance, you're out of the office for a while, you want to move a subset of tasks to another day just to get the red off your screen. Then down at the bottom is a single and multiple option. I could choose multiple, right? And then I could choose these tasks here, choose batch task update, and move those to tomorrow. Okay, and that moves them off my screen, of course, and those are set for tomorrow. Well, it's on the screen, they're just now due tomorrow. So that's kind of a little known feature, but I think it's super useful, especially if you're just trying to clean things up. I'm going to clear all. And that'll show me that I have a total tasks of 6,332. That's including everything that's been completed as well. Okay. So these are all complete tasks. If I want to see all incomplete tasks, just go to task status, choose incomplete. And now I'm looking at all tasks that I have scheduled that are incomplete. let's go over to calendar. We'll take a look at that just for a minute here. Some users like to work from their calendar and others like to work from the tasks table. It's really up to you. That's another thing. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's however you work the best, right? It will also default to your task status incomplete. So it's just showing tasks that you still have to do. It'll default to your week view as well, but you have the month and the day here. And I will be able to distinguish my appointments from my all day type tasks. So all day type tasks are up here. Okay. And then my appointments are down here. Now, perhaps, let's say I see that, wow, I have a lot of tasks due on Friday. I'm working Saturday. So maybe I want to move some of these. You could actually move these to another day from here. I'll just move a couple of those to Saturday. See how I'm doing that there? I mean, that's a great feature. That was never available in the 2.0 platform. Now you can move these things around. So I'm going to move this appointment over here to the afternoon. I can even adjust the length or duration of the appointment. Okay. If I want to see other filters or filter my tasks showing, pop out the filters on the left. Maybe uncheck incomplete. So now I'm showing complete and incomplete tasks. So this is everything I've done. And you may want to look at that at some point just to quickly recall, oh yeah, I did complete that tour with Judith. I want to bounce into that activities page, kind of check what I've got going on next, and I needed to update my notes here. Okay. Maybe enter another task. So I have a couple of tasks scheduled. And then another thing to note is these little quick buttons back to task search or your calendar. So if I want to quickly go back there, I don't need from an activities page for leads and sources, I don't have to go back up here and choose these. I always have these little icons here. So if I want to quickly access the task grid, I click the magnifying glass, that icon, it takes me here. If you wanted to go to the details, click the name. That takes you right to the details of the lead. And so, by now, hopefully you're seeing how the pages are connected within You've Got Leads, and it's a pretty solid workflow with how you're adding the lead, entering the task, tracking the notes, and following up. So this lead is a post-tour lead. I did mention that I would go through the steps of moving somebody in, perhaps even moving them out, and then closing the lead and reopening the lead. That seems to be pretty popular of a question. So let's say that we made the call. I'm just going to complete that. Yes, make contact, save. Anytime you're on the details page, or the activities page, I should say, of a lead or a source, you can just click the radio button and that completes the task. But let's say they moved in. We're actually going to backdate this. You don't have to enter details if you don't want to. The details is just a text field for you. It doesn't have anything to do with reports. And we'll say this is done. Now, certain tasks require a bit more details to be tracked. And what I'm talking about there is a move-in task, move-out task, transfer task. That's a little more significant than an email, right? I would think, a move-in. So if you want to track inventory, and if you use the inventory and occupancy module within You've Got Leads, then you would track the unit that the person is moving into, number of people per unit, occupancy type, respite, yes or no. Okay. And once we've tracked all of the detailed information about the move-in, then we click Save. Okay. And that tracks our move-in. We did backdate it a little bit there. But now this lead is a move-in. It's no longer open. And that's what would populate our inventory report, for instance. And here is the lead we just moved in right there. You can see it. Oops. That was their move-in date. That's the length of stay. So if I click on the name, of course, that puts me right back to the details. I can pop over to activities. I can see it there. Okay. Now, what if we needed to move a lead out? Well, it's pretty much the same process. Nothing too complicated. Even transfer, I'll show you that just real quick. Transfer just automatically completes the from, because that's where the lead is in. And then you type in the transfer to, and you choose the unit they're transferring to. Okay. But if I needed to move this lead out, I check all of this information, move out reason. We can save it. Now the lead is moved out, and I didn't complete it, but I can complete it here. If I complete it, then please add a follow-up task for this lead before leaving the page. And that's because it's a move out. It's considering this lead to be an open lead. Okay. Okay. So now we would need to enter a next step. And that would get rid of our next step, or we could close the lead. If they were moved out and we needed to close the lead, and we could do that. I'm going to delete that call task. Choose close lost lead. Track all of the information here. Track our lost lead reason. Do I want to delete all unfinished tasks? Yes, I do. Click yes. So now the lead is closed. So we just moved a lead in, we moved a lead out, we close a lead. To cap off this part of the instruction, I want to tell you how to reopen a lead. And we get that question quite often. It's a common question is, well, I've closed leads, but how do I reopen them? Well, that is just deleting the close lost lead task. So I would delete that here, click OK. And now the lead is open again. Okay. And we would go ahead and enter the next step. Okay. All right, so hopefully everybody's been following along. And we are nearing the finish line now. I'll talk about sources. We'll generate some reports. As far as inventory goes, I have another 5-minute video that you guys can view whenever you'd like. And it shows you how to create your units in your community and even move in a resident. Okay, I know it's a lot of information to take in 1 hour and 15-minute session. So I think it's good just to provide that in the follow-up and allow you to review that specific information on how to set up inventory specifically. Okay, plus I know there's some folks that don't use the inventory piece, so it wouldn't be relevant to you on this call, but I'll make sure you get that information. Now, as far as sources go, there's a filter form here at the very top. And Mark, that's a great question. I just got a question about any plans to create a mobile app. And yes, we do have plans for that. The YGL mobile app is in the works now. We're about 3/4 of the way through the development, and it is scheduled to be released at the end of August, beginning of September. Okay, for those of you, who weren't here for me mentioning that, it's definitely something we're looking forward to, and I know the user base will welcome. So the answer is yes, and I can't wait. The sources Vista Ridge of Seattle, these are all found by using these filters. I've cleared the filters, or they're automatically cleared. Now you'll notice, where's my little filter pop out, like in leads or tasks? Well, there's not nearly as many filters at this point for sources. That's why it's just a form here. Okay. And you have a couple of other ways to filter down here by title or phone. If you see any text that's blue and you've got leads, that's a link to further information. So I can click the source detail here. And do a little updating. Every source has an activities page that looks just like this. Here's where you enter outreach information. If you're somebody at your community that is the outreach liaison, you're the person that's calling upon discharge planners and visiting local community centers, agencies, referral networks, hospitals, medical offices, any type of organization you can think of, then this page will be very important to you. In your sources section, you'll be working within that section every day. And here's how you enter a task for a source right here, same way. I need to create a sales call appointment, and I'll go ahead and delete that. If you're wondering, well, how do I create an appointment for a source? Well, you'd access the source detail by going to the sources section and clicking their name. Then you go to activity and you choose the new task, click the drop down, click on your sales call appointment, schedule the day. That's probably a bad day, 11. And we could uncheck the box because it's an appointment. So maybe we're meeting with them at 4 o'clock, set the time. It's going to take us an hour and a half. It's high priority. So click save. Now we've scheduled a sales call appointment. That's how they get in here. And that's important. That'll show up in reports that it's relevant for. It'll show up on your dashboard under your outreach activity. And of course, it'll be in your task search as well. All right. So if I clear all, so we have lots of appointments here, but maybe I want to look at all task status incomplete. So I searched for Marge, and we can see that we found in our task page that activity, sales call appointment, that we just scheduled. Okay. If I want to see who Marge has referred to us already, I click View Leads Referred by this source, and I can see all of that, and I could export it to Excel with full address and phone numbers and so on. And all I did was click right here. Okay. Now, once you've entered information into You've Got Leads, that's what's going to begin to auto-populate these reports. And I'd say activity report by week is one of the most commonly used reports or generated reports in this program. So I have a summary, inquiry follow-up, my community outreach, any referrals. I mean, this is all relevant stuff to us in senior housing, right? Inquiry just means lead follow-up. And I can see these metrics for the week for the entire quarter. Marketing dashboard report, I can generate this by the week or by the month. And what I would suggest, guys, is going through all of your reports. I mean, maybe not all of them, but pinpoint the ones up front that appear to be useful for you. Taking a look at those reports, and then if you have any questions, let us know. And they're pretty straightforward for the most part. Like task report completed, maybe I want to see all of the tours that have been completed since the beginning of the year for my username. So you see what I did there? I just filtered using those parameters. Okay. In the report section, you just hover your cursor over reports, and you can review any of these reports in each one of the main sections. So if it were lead status reports that you wanted to use, like a move-in report, right? Maybe we'll look at all move-ins for this year. We can do that. You can see as I'm generating these reports, some have the little graphs with them. Here's a simple report that just shows how many open leads and where each number, or the number of leads in each pipeline, or the sales phase in the pipeline. But as you familiarize yourself with this program, I can almost guarantee you'll come across something that you might want to see, whether it's a suggestion or a change, or perhaps a brand new feature or functionality. We love the feedback, especially since we are working on this 3.0 platform as we speak and will be. The way we can make it better is to obtain feedback from our user base. So that's something that we do pay attention to, and that you can submit through support, as well as if you needed help. So speaking of help, if you're in the program, I think the best way to reach out to us is simply click help at the upper right-hand corner, and then choose contact us. It will put in whatever your name is or username automatically. I would include as much information as you can. If you have an email signature, put it in here. That way it helps us to know who you are and be able to follow up with you easier. The worst thing is if we just get support requests and it just says need help and it doesn't have a name or phone number and we get them. So put down at least your parent org or your community name, and then fill in this section as well, okay? And I'll go ahead and send this. And it says, thanks for reaching out. We'll get back to you soon. Thank you. Done. And what that will do is it'll actually provide an email that's sent to your own inbox and give you a ticket number or reference number. That way you can refer to that ticket number until your issue has been resolved. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I know I've went over a little bit on time, but look for my email follow-up for all attendees that were on the call today. I will provide a link that you could, it just requires you to put your name and your email in to view the recording, but you can review that anytime you'd like. So I will send that along, and I think it'll be a useful resource for you. But thank you very much, all of you, for joining me. We greatly appreciate your YGL partnership, and we look forward to hearing from you and working to make this program even better as we move forward. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.